Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for episode 52. We are going to highlight SoftPro Select tips and tricks, so a lot of fun, cool stuff for all of you users out there. I am Leslie Wyatt. I am the Director of Compliance at SoftPro, and we are joined today by Jessica Ames, one of our lovely trainers. Most of you probably know her already. She does a lot of these for us, so thank you, Jessica, for helping us out as usual. And I'm going to turn it over to her in a second, but I want to do some quick housekeeping. As usual, we record these and we will send out a follow-up email with a link of the recording to everyone who registered for the webinar. You can also find it on our website along with our blog information. You can also find further information on SoftPro Select and various other SoftPro products that you might have questions on. So speaking of questions, you're also able to use the questions or chat feature within the webinar here, and you can ask some questions. If we do not get to your question, we will reach out to you on the side. We have a limited amount of time, and she's going to show you some cool stuff, so I'm sure you guys will have some questions, but we will monitor them and try and get through as many as we can. I think, can you go to the next slide? So I just want to remind everyone that SoftPro is celebrating our 40th anniversary in 2024, which is so exciting. We couldn't do it without all of our wonderful customers. We have a lot of fun giveaways, events, and raffles planned for customers throughout the year. So go ahead and make sure you go to softprocorp.com/40th anniversary, softprocorp.com/40th anniversary, and you can learn more and how to register and hopefully win some of the cool fun planned events and items throughout the year. So just a quick thank you to everybody for helping us reach our 40th year, and we look forward to the next 40 as well. We can move that slide. I just want to remind everybody that we also have the SoftPro 2024 user conference coming up, and this is actually our 25th year. Amazing conference. If you've never been, I strongly suggest, if you're able to join us, to please do so. It's a great networking event. As always, our users are so willing to share what they've done, how they've made SoftPro work more efficiently for themselves. Not only that, but we bring our trainers, our developers, our documents developers, so you get to meet a lot of the people that you've interacted with and talked with, and you get to spend some hands-on time in the different classes, learning about the product, learning some new stuff. You can pick and choose the tracks and classes that you want to go to. It's just a really great time. It's a really, really educational yet fun user group conference. And if you're able to join us, please go ahead and register at softprocorp.com/SPUG, SPUG for SoftPro user group, and help us join our 25th year of our user group conference. And I think with that, I'm probably going to go ahead and turn this over to Jessica. I've talked long enough. So let's get into the good stuff and learn some tips and tricks with SoftPro Select. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica.
Thank you, Leslie. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Like Leslie said, my name is Jessica Ames, and I am a trainer here at SoftPro. So I get the benefit of training our customers both in SoftPro Select and also our standard and enterprise editions of the software. I get to travel the country, so it's a really fun, cool job, and I love doing it. So today I would like to share with you all some tips and tricks. So what are some tips that we can use to help navigate the Select system, to help navigate our orders, little tricks that we can do to make our screen look better, to make our lives easier. So I'm going to go over some of the tips and tricks I came up with today. As Leslie said, please feel free to submit any questions that you have throughout the next hour or so that we're going to be here. And those can be submitted through the question section or the chat. And Leslie, feel free to pipe in if whatever I'm talking about at the time, if there's any good questions that come in, please go ahead and let me know. And then, like Leslie said, if we don't have time for your question today during our hour, then we'll definitely follow up with you with those answers post-webinar. So to get started, I'm going to just kick it off with some keyboard shortcuts. Now, I'm sure that there's keyboard shortcuts that hopefully everybody uses on a daily basis, ones that we have to use or always want to use all the time. So our number one keyboard shortcut that I hope everybody is well aware of is our F2 function key. So F2 is always the keyboard shortcut key that we are going to use to get rid of red text. So we never want to be using delete and backspace anytime we want to remove red text from a field in our order. We always want to use that F2 function key. So to clear any red text, you can click in any field and just simply hit F2, whether it be a field you type in or a drop-down list. It could be a checkbox you check. F2 will clear and reset that field. Another very popular keyboard shortcut we want to make sure everyone knows is F1. Anytime you hit the F1 function key when you are in SoftPro Select, that's going to launch our SoftPro Help website. Any training materials, any training videos, any resources we have available that would normally be in a standard manual book, those are all going to be here on our Help website, and you can get there just by simply clicking or hitting that F1 function key. Now, some other nice to know keyboard shortcuts. Did you know that we can run a spell check from anywhere throughout our Proform file? If I click into any field and hit the F7 function key, it will run a spell check of that field. You may have noticed that when you look at one of your scrollable fields, let's say, for example, if I go to my legal description screen, in my legal description field, there is a spell check icon in the toolbar. But I don't have to only use spell check in a scrollable field. I can actually run a spell check from any place. I can run it from my contact screen when typing in buyer names and seller names and addresses, on my title commitment when typing in requirement language, exception language. So anytime you want to run that spell check, just simply hit F7 on your keyboard. Another great keyboard shortcut to know when it comes to balancing our CD, there's going to be two actually that are going to be very helpful. The first is F11. No matter where you're at in your order, anytime you hit F11, it will pop open your loan funding summary. We want to keep an eye on this loan funding summary as we're building our CD to make sure that we stay in balance with our lender's wire. So anytime we want to see that funding summary, all we need to do is hit F11. We, of course, not only need to be in balance with our lender when working on our CD, but we also want to make sure the order is in balance. For those of us using the SoftPro Enhanced screens, you are able to see your order balance towards the top right-hand side of your order. But what if I'm out of balance and I need some help figuring out what the issue is? Where's the problem? So we do have an order balance screen that can give us hints and clues as to what possibly might be going wrong in the order. To open up that order balance screen with a keyboard shortcut, all we need to do is hit F12. So F12 is going to open up that order balance sheet, and if the order was out of balance, it would give us an idea, some direction of where to go to correct our mistakes. So when it comes to our lookup tables, if we go to our order contacts, we know that with all of our order contacts, like our lenders, our real estate agents, attorneys, abstractors, we always have our lookup tables available where we can store those names and addresses that we use on a regular basis. So hopefully we all know to access our lookup table, all we need to do is simply click on the lookup code blue link, and it will open up that particular table for us. But did you know that there's also a keyboard shortcut that will open that lookup table as well? With my cursor in the lookup code field, I could just simply hit the F9 function key, and that will also pop open my lookup table. So that's another great, easy keyboard shortcut, especially if you're a keyboard person. I know I am. I like to use my keyboard a little bit more than my mouse. If you don't want to stop and grab that mouse to click on a link, especially for a lookup table, F9 is a great keyboard shortcut to remember. Even when navigating the order, again, if you're not that much of a mouse person, you're more of a keyboard person, did you know that you can navigate through your order screen by screen using your keyboard? So on the left-hand side of our order is our list of screens. Instead of using my mouse to click on the name of the screen I want to move into, I can use my page up and page down keys. So hitting page down will take me down my list of screens one by one. Page up will take me back up the list of screens. When navigating the fields in a screen, I can use my tab key. My tab key will move my cursor field by field, one by one. But what if I hit that tab key one time too many and I need to move back a field? Do I have to grab my mouse to click and go backwards to a field above? You can actually still use your keyboard. If you hold down your shift key and then hit tab, it will move your cursor backwards field by field. So that's a really
Hey,
cool,
Jessica.
convenient one. No, yes.
Hey, real quick, question. Someone said, how do we get the enhanced view screen that shows the balance in the top right corner from the buyer, from the seller, and balance?
So you can just reach out to SoftPro support and they can install the enhanced screens into your system. So just a simple support call.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, one last keyboard shortcut I want to point out is with our date fields. So in any date field, we always have the ability to either type our dates manually. We also have a calendar that we can access to select a date, choose a date, rather than typing it. But there is a keyboard shortcut if you would like to just throw in today's date and you want to put in whatever the time currently is. I can use the down arrow on my keyboard. A place this might be very helpful and convenient if we go to our title screens to commitment schedule A and we think about that issue date or the date and time that we're completing the commitment. If I just want to throw in what today's date is and whatever time it is on the clock, instead of having to manually type that or choose it from the calendar, I can simply click in that field, hit the down arrow on my keyboard. It pulls in today's date and the current time. All right, so the next little tip or trick I want to show you is how to split our screen. This is a question as a trainer I get all the time, especially since a lot of us these days work with multiple monitors. And the question we always get is there a way for me to have one order on one monitor and another order on the other? Can I split my screen? So unfortunately, we can't split select up on different screens, different monitors. However, you can take one monitor, you can take select and then split so that you can see multiple orders at the same time. We can see our orders versus our documents. How do we do that? So when you grab a tab at the top of your screen here, so if you have a couple orders open, maybe you've got your start page and or your documents open, if you grab the tab with your left mouse and hold it down, while you're holding down that left mouse, if you start to drag your cursor towards the center of the screen, you're going to see this cross that appears. And this allows me to split the screen and decide where I want to place this particular order in our example. I can place it on the right-hand side of the screen, the left-hand side, the top, the bottom. So with my screen split like this, I'm now able to see two orders at the same time. This is great if you need to compare two orders. Maybe there's little pieces of information that you want to copy and paste from one order to another. You don't need to copy the entire order from one to the other, but you just want to take maybe a couple spots, a couple fields, and copy that information from one order to another. So this is a great way to do that. You can split your screen. Another great example as to why I might want to do this, let's say I want to see my order and my documents. So if I split my screen, I can have my documents up on one side, and then I can see the order on the other. And I'm able to very easily compare my document to my order. With my documents, I always have the ability of my hotspots. So anything we see in that blue text, we can always click on, and we can see right away exactly where it takes us into that order so that we can update the order information. And then once we go back to the document, we can go ahead and refresh it, and it'll update with the new information. Another great reason I might want to split and see multiple orders, let's say that I would like to move attachments from one order to another. Did you know that you can move attachments from one order to a different order? So here in order, number 233. The active order that you're working in is going to be the one with the more bold order number. So I'm going to activate order number 233, and I'm going to go into the attachments. I can grab any of the attachments from this order and then drag it into another. And this is a great, easy way to do it. When you split your screen, it makes it a little bit easier. We don't have to split our screen to do this. I can show you how we do it if our screen isn't split, but this does make it a little bit more convenient. So if I want to drag, let's say, this order summary document, all I have to do is grab it with my mouse, drag it into the other order, basically anywhere you see white space, and then that document will be attached. And let's open up our attachments here in this order. All right, so there's that email that I moved over. There's our order summary that we moved over. Now, if my screen was not split, can I still do that? And the answer is absolutely, yes, you can. So if I have multiple orders open and I need to move attachments from one order to another, when I grab the attachment that I would like to move, I will then drag it up to the other orders tab to bring that order forward. You can see that while my cursor is still sitting on the tab, it has kind of that no symbol, that circle with the line through it. So while I continue to hold down my left mouse, I just need to move my cursor into the order and release, and then that will be an attachment. So that's how we can copy and move attachments from one order to the other. So you'll notice that the attachments in the original order did not leave altogether. They're still in that order. I'm basically copying and moving a copy of them to another order. All right, so let's look at another reason why I might want to split my screen. What else can I move around my screen? So when we look at our start page, and when we're thinking about tasking and working from that My Work Items list, when I click from my task summary on the start page, when I click View, it's going to pop up my work items. I can use my work items as a to-do list to work from. These are the things that I'm required to get done. These are tasks that are assigned to me. Now, the My Work Items is going to be what we call the collapsible pane. When your cursor is hovered over My Work Items, you can see your list of your orders and your tasks. When I move my mouse and click somewhere else, it shrinks down, it collapses, and goes into hiding. Now, I always have the ability to pin my work items to the screen. If I don't want that pane to collapse and go into its hiding spot, I want to be able to see it always on my screen. There is a push pin icon here to the right. So I can pin my work items. That way, no matter where I click my mouse, no matter where else in my order I move to, I'm able to see my work items. I can use my mouse and drag the top of this blue bar here up and down to make that my work items as large or small on the screen as I want. Now, the one somewhat negative thing about having my work items pinned is it's cutting off my order. You know, I can't necessarily see my full screen when working in the order. Can I move my work items to somewhere else? And luckily, the answer is yes. In the same way that we split our screen with multiple orders or an order versus documents, we can take the My Work Items and move it to the left or the right-hand side of our screen. To do that, we're going to grab by holding down our mouse. We're going to click where it says My Work Items, hold down that left mouse, and again, start dragging. So if I click on the right-hand side arrow here, that's going to move my work items list to the right-hand side of my screen, and it no longer cuts off my order. So I can see the full screen of whichever order I'm working in, as well as I can see my orders tab, my tasking tab, any other tabs I had added, maybe for other employees, other coworkers' tasks, other groups' tasks. So I can see that list on the right or the left of my screen, whatever your preference is, and then still see my full order.
Jessica?
Yes.
We have a couple questions if I can, since you're kind of in this area, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. One says we should mention F5 to refresh because I think it's a cool tool.
Yes, yes.
The other
So
one,
I'll
go ahead.
before you move on. So F5, that's a great keyboard shortcut. Thank you for bringing that up. This is especially great for your CD and also for refreshing. So when it comes to documents, instead of hitting that refresh link, whenever you change information in your order, F5 will also refresh your document. The other cool thing that F5 is used for is to access your contacts. So when you are working on your CD and there is a contact code that you add to the CD, let's say we add in, let's say we've got a survey fee we're going to add here to section B, and I've got a surveyor type contact, but that contact happens to be blank. So I need to choose the surveyor contact code because that's who I'm ultimately going to cut the check to. But how do I jump to that contact to then complete their name and address? With my cursor still in that code field for that surveyor contact, I can also hit F5. It opens up the contact screen so that I can access my lookup table, hopefully pull in my surveyor contact, type them in if they happen to not be a contact yet. And then once I hit my back arrow or another keyboard shortcut, instead of using your back arrow to get back to where you just were, just simply hit your escape key. And that'll take you back to the last place you were at as well. So F5 does kind of have two shortcuts. So good question.
Great. Okay. The next one is, can you split to see register and order at the same time?
No, so the register's part of the order. And that's why we can't, because when I click to go in my register, you'll see it's not opening a separate tab. I'm
Got
still
it.
in the order. So unfortunately, no, you can't split. You could do two registers for two orders, but we can't do register versus the order because it is still the order.
Okay. Another one is, can you drag exceptions from one order to another the same way you move the attachments?
So that's actually a really, really good question. And whoever asked that question, you are reading my mind because that was the exact same or exact next tip that I was going to move into. So that's a perfect segue. All right, so I'm going to close out of my work items here. Remember, when you pin something to your screen, you can always unpin it if you want to send it into its hiding spot, or if you just want to close the tab altogether, you can click on your X. And one last thing about moving my work items to the right or the left of your screen, this is going to be a per day item. If I shut down Select and reopen it, my work items will return back to the bottom of your screen. So it is something you'll have to do every morning if you want to always see those on the right, but it will stick for the whole day if you leave Select open. All right, but getting back to requirements and exceptions. So how can I move information from one order to another, especially when I want to move a bulk of information? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my start page. I'm going to hit create. And I'm going to create a refinance. So I'm going to do a CD and I'm going to search for my refinance template. Oops. Of course, I click on purchase again. Slip of the mouse. Okay, so I'm going to click OK and create this new order. Now, especially if we think about a scenario where I've got two orders that are the same property, or maybe they're just two orders in or in the same subdivision where they have very similar exceptions and or requirements. If it's the same property, you know they're going to have the same requirements and exceptions. If it's two properties in a similar subdivision, chances are most of those requirements and exceptions are going to be the same. Some of your contacts might be the same. If I think about a purchase versus a refinance for the same owner, the owner name didn't change, their name and their address. There might be the same lender. So when I have similar orders and I want to move information from one to the other, the easiest and quickest way to do that is with what we call overlay. So when you're in an order and you look to your order ribbon, which is at the top of your screen, under the actions section, one of your actions is overlay order. And this is the quickest, easiest way for me to move information, basically do a mass copy and paste of my order contacts, my requirements, my exceptions, my property information. So when I click overlay order, I will need to go search for the order I want to pull information from. So I'm going to click on my search icon and I'm going to search for my order number ending in 231. Now make sure on the right here, when you have your check boxes to choose what you're searching for, make sure that if you're searching for an order, that you definitely check orders. And then we'll click search. And I'll double click on order 231. So then my overlay options appear. So when it comes to moving my requirements and or exceptions, when I check that box, the left-hand side will show me what is in the original existing order, and you can see the order number there at the top. It's up to me what I choose to add or move over to the destination order, which is the new order I just created. So I can do these one at a time. If I double click on this requirement, or I'm sorry, not double click, click and drag this requirement over to the requirements folder here in the destination order, it moves over. If I highlight the requirement and then click the add button in the center, it'll do the same thing as dragging. If I have an entire list of items, let's say I click on exceptions here in the destination order, and I want to take every single exception from the original order, the source order. You can use your control key or your shift key. Control key allows me to highlight multiple items. If I hold down my shift key and then click a range of items, it highlights everything in between. So I can do that and either drag or use the add button to add all of those requirements or exceptions over to the order. So we can do the same thing with order contacts. You know, on the left are going to be the contacts from the original source order. The right would be the contacts in the new order, right? So my borrower, if this is used to be a purchase, maybe this was a purchase we did 3 years ago, now they're refinancing, it's the same borrower. I can take that borrower, drag them here into the new order. When dragging contacts, it will ask you if I'm trying to replace that contact code or insert it as an additional contact. So in this case, I'm going to hit replace since I only have that one borrower. If it's the same lender, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, if I hit my add button, you'll notice it adds the lender First National Bank as a second lender contact. So if I don't want to add them as a second lender, I want them to be the only lender in that new order, your best bet is to drag and drop. So I'm going to take the L code from the source order, move it to the L code in the destination order, and then choose replace. So we can move endorsements, again, dragging and dropping from one order to another. And then when we choose property, it allows us to pull over the address and the legal description. Once the overlay is complete, you'll click OK. So you can see that my property information came in. If I go to the order contacts, we've got those contacts that came through. And if we go to our title, Schedule B, our requirements and exceptions. So overlay order is the best way to move your exceptions from one order to the other. And it won't matter if you're overlaying from a CD to a HUD or a HUD to a CD, commercial to a CD. You know, the information that can be overlaid, contacts, property information, title requirements, exceptions, those screens are the same in all order types. So you can overlay different settlement type orders from one to the other. With that in mind, let's talk about Toggler. So Toggler is an add-on, and it's an add-on that we have here in ProForm. It is free of charge. It can be installed into your system if it's something that you are interested in your users having or yourself having. What does Toggler do? So Toggler allows me to change my settlement type. So when we are on our start page and we click create, when we're creating a new order, we need to choose between CD, commercial, or HUD. When we create an order as a CD, we're not able to generate any HUD documents. I can't do the GFE HUD. I can't do the 1986 HUD. Same goes if I'm in the reverse. If I create a HUD file, the only two settlement type documents I can do are a 1986 HUD or a GFE HUD. The commercial order will give me a commercial settlement statement. So I often get this question, well, what happens if we get the new contract in, we create the order as a CD? Because according to the information we have, there's going to be a lender. So we are assuming that we need to do a CD. We're assuming it's residential property. And then at some point in the future, whether that be a day, a week, a month, at some point in the future, we now learn that we're required to do a HUD. Maybe it's a commercial loan rather than a residential loan. The lender won't accept a master or Alta settlement statement that we can generate from our CD orders. It's a cash deal, and the buyer or seller refuses to accept a settlement statement out of our CD. They're insisting on a HUD. Maybe it's one of our really good clients that they're just used to seeing a HUD, even though we don't have to use a HUD for cash closings, they're just insisting on it. Other than starting over, right? Other than creating a brand new order and using that overlay feature, can I switch my order? And the answer to that is yes, and it's with what we call one of our custom integrations, Toggler. So once Toggler is installed in SoftPro Select and you are in an order, you will see that you have a toggle icon in your order ribbon. So right now, if I look at my escrow and closing screens, this order is set up as a CD. Once I hit toggle settlement type, it allows me to toggle or switch this order from a CD to a HUD or a CD to a commercial settlement statement. So if I choose HUD, then I also have the choice of just toggling it with no additional template, or I can choose to, after the toggle or before the toggle, also apply a template. So when you use Toggler, it's always a good idea to have templates available, because what's going to happen when I switch this order from a CD to a HUD? If I go here and open up a HUD order, a HUD order versus a CD, what's the difference? All of your general screens are the same. Nothing's going to be different about those general screens between CD and HUD. Title screens are the same. Loan screens are the same. But when we get to escrow and closing, once we reach HOA charges and prorations, everything below that is where the change happens. So when I toggle an order, I will keep everything above HOA charges and prorations. Everything after HOA charges and prorations will be lost. So if I look at my CD order, notice I have some fees entered directly on the CD. Once I hit toggle, any information entered on any of the 5 CD screens will be lost. That's the information I'm going to have to re-enter if it does still apply. And that's one thing that Toggler template can help with, especially when moving from a CD to a HUD. Standard charges, your recording fees, collecting for a deed, collecting for transfer taxes, if you have standard formulas that you use for those, putting something like that into your toggle template. Insurance information, indicating that the insurance premium you would enter both on your CD and your HUD would be for the yearly premium. There's these little kind of nuanced items that the orders won't be able to read going from CD to HUD, that having that toggle template is very useful for. So when I click on toggle, I'm going to choose to toggle this CD to a HUD. and I'm going to choose to apply my HUD toggle template, and I'm going to apply it after the order is copied. So it'll copy all the information from my order first, and then on top of that, it'll apply the toggle template. So it'll let you know while it's working, and once it's complete, it will create that new order and let you know that it is complete. It does remind you that you do want to make sure and save the order so that you don't lose this new order that was just created. And if you encounter any errors, please go ahead and correct those. Let's go ahead and hit save. So you can see now my order has the same exact order number. So it's still order number 231. But if I now look at my escrow and closing screens, instead of HUD screens, or I'm sorry, instead of CD screens, I now have my HUD screens. Now you might be thinking, well, what happened to the CD order? Did that completely disappear? I'm going to go ahead and run a search. So I'm going to go back to my start page, and let's search for that order number 231. When you use Toggler, the original order will still exist. You'll still have access to it, and its status will be marked as duplicate. You can also see in the order number, the letters CDF are added to the end of that order number. So I know the difference between which one's the CD versus which one's the HUD. Or if I was going the other way, if I was going from HUD to CD, which one's the HUD versus which one's the CD. So if I open this duplicate order, all the same information is there. I can still access it. But what that toggle function does in my status screen, it marks the order status as duplicate, and it also cancels my title and escrow status. So that all happens automatically with that toggle integration. So if anyone's interested in getting that toggler and you don't currently have it, you can reach out to SoftPro support, open up a support ticket, and they can assist you with the install for Toggler. It does need to be installed on each individual user computer, by the way. If you've got 30 users that want Toggler, just know that each individual user will need to install it on their local computer. But there is no charge for Toggler.
Hey, Jessica, we have a couple questions regarding Toggle, so let me go ahead and ask them while we're fresh on this. But
Sure.
One is, will the Toggler let you change a file from a residential cash purchase to a residential purchase with a loan file?
Yes. So really what the Toggler is going to do is change your settlement type in terms of what kind of escrow and closing screens do we have. You know, in a CD order, you have CD screens. When it comes to the documents in a CD order, when we go to escrow and closing, we have CDF documents, but we also have settlement statements. In a residential cash closing, there is no requirement to use a HUD. There's no legal requirement, there's no law requiring us to use a HUD. So if you're doing all residential orders, we have plenty of customers that for all residential orders, they always create their order as a CD. If there's a lender involved, they'll produce the buyer-seller CD. If it's cash, they'll use either the plain master settlement statement or the Alta settlement statement. The only reason for us to switch a residential order with a loan to a residential cash order, the only difference there is what kind of settlement document do you need to produce. If someone's requiring you to issue a 1986 HUD, because that's their preference, yes, you can use Toggler to go from CD to HUD. But just know that is a preference. It might be your internal office preference. It might be your attorney's preference. It might be your client's preference. It's not legally, we're not required to use a HUD for a cash transaction. But Toggle, yes, will get you from a CD order to a HUD order.
Someone else says, do they need to have a HUD toggle template specifically? Meaning when I toggle, my drop down does not show any of my HUD templates.
Yes, so when you click on Toggle, and it gives you the option to apply a template. The only templates it's going to recognize are those that have the word toggle in them. And you definitely want to have a toggle template, because that template is going to have very, very limited information into it, because I don't want to duplicate anything that's in my standard HUD template. If you think about the list of contacts that are in that HUD template, the fees you have in that HUD template, you're not going to lose that information with Toggler. So you definitely need to have separate toggle templates. We actually have a user guide on our help website that will give you the ideal structure of a HUD toggle template to be created, as well as a CD and a commercial statement toggle template. You want to keep it very limited with only those items that are unique to a HUD versus a CD. So yes, you need a toggle template. It will not recognize any template that doesn't have the word toggle in it.
Okay, I think we're good for now.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about some money. I'm going to talk a little bit about group deposits. So when we have a transaction, I'm going to go into the register here for this order. Actually, no, not this order. Let's go into this one here. Now I lost my order. All right, anyway, we'll not go into the order. We'll go straight into group deposits. All right, so what is a group deposit? So when we receive money, we always need to post our money into the register exactly as we received it in real life. So if especially I have multiple closings throughout the day, let's say I've got 3 closings in the morning, 5 closings in the afternoon, maybe, 4 of those closings I received cashier's checks from different parties, maybe regular checks from agents, brokers, and I need to deposit all of those receipts at the bank. Of course, when it comes to our select orders, those receipts need to get posted separately. So in this order here, if Brad and Barbara Buyer brought in their funds, but they brought them in as separate checks. So I'm going to double click and open this pending receipt. I'm going to mark it as posted. And I'm going to say they brought me in 2 separate cashier's checks. They brought in one, let's say for $65,000. I'm going to click OK to post that. $65,000 is less than what they owed according to my CD here in this order. So there's still a balance of a little over $3,400. If they sent that money to me or brought that money to me in a separate check, I'm going to post that separately in the order. That's how I received the funds. I got them in 2 separate checks. So I'm going to double click. We'll post the $34.27. We'll say we got that as a cashier's check as well. And then we'll click OK. So this is how I actually received the money in real life. And that's exactly how I need to post it in the order. But do I want to create 2 separate deposit slips when I take those checks to the bank? Probably not. That just seems like a lot of extra work that I shouldn't have to do. Now, for reconciliation purposes, I do want to make sure that in the system, not only are they posted exactly as they were received, meaning we did receive 2 separate cashier's checks, but I want to let my reconciler know that, hey, we ended up depositing these together under 1 deposit slip. So that's essentially what a group deposit is used for. So the way that I can set up a group deposit is by going to my ProForm ribbon. We can actually set up group deposits in both ProForm and ProTrust. I do not need to have permission to ProTrust to set up a group deposit. As long as I have the ProForm permission, as well as the permission to create group deposits, I can do that right from ProForm. So when I access my ProForm ribbon, you'll see that there is an icon, New Group Deposit. And when we click on the little down arrow to get the menu, we can start a brand new deposit, or we can search for any previous existing deposits we had created. So I'm going to do New Group Deposit, and I'm going to choose my trust account. On the left-hand side is going to be a list of all of the available receipts that I'm able to group together. So this is everything that I've posted. You can see that I've received, let's see, starting with this one here, we've got 5 cashier's checks that we received and posted today. They've been posted to different orders. I'm not going to create separate deposit slips to send those to the bank. I'm just going to create one deposit slip, deposit everything together. How do I reflect that here in the system? So what I can do is I can take which items I want to group together and move them over to the selected side. So to move a receipt, we can double click on it. We can highlight it and click add. You can again use your keyboard. You can use your shift key, your control key, if you want to highlight multiple items to add over to your group. So everything you've selected is what you want to be a part of the group. Now, depending on your system setup, you may need to assign a deposit number manually. The deposit date is going to be the day that you deposited the funds. So we'll go ahead and say that we're doing this today. You can see my deposit number field is grayed out. My deposit number system is set up to be automatic. As soon as I save this group deposit, the number will get assigned automatically. Some of us may have our system set up where we'll need to actually assign the deposit number manually. So if that field is open, if you can type in it, then you will put in whatever the deposit number is that you need to reference. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And we're going to see that my deposit number assigns automatically. I can create or print a deposit slip if that's something that my bank will accept, or if I just want to print it out for my file, I can click on that deposit slip button to go ahead and print that out. But this is how we can take multiple receipts for multiple checks that we receive throughout the day, even though we're posting them individually in our orders. If we're going to take them all at the end of the day to the bank together and put them under one deposit slip so that I don't drive my reconciler crazy, I can create these group deposits. So when it comes to funds and making any other changes in your register, double checking your receipts and or disbursements, another tip I just want to kind of put out there as we're starting to wrap up here, order transactions. Your order transaction screen is one of the most important screens you have in your order. This is where you can see all of your disbursements. Any edits, any changes, all need to be made in your order when it comes to who our disbursements are being paid to, the dollar amounts that are being paid, and all of that can be done here from order transactions. One of the most glaring things that you can see when you look at order transactions is any of your disbursements that are missing payee names. When you look at your list of disbursements, the disbursements are going to be in alphabetical order by name. So anyone who's missing a payee name will float to the top of your list. If I don't have a payee name, I'm not going to be able to post a wire or issue a check. So the order transaction screen is a great, easy way for me to very quickly see that and then fill in who those contact types are. Now going back to our keyboard shortcuts, if we remember the F5 shortcut key, when I have a contact code and I click where that contact code is, to open up that contact screen, all I need to do is hit F5. It's going to pop open my contact screen. I can choose my contact from the lookup table. Now, another cool thing that we can do from our contacts when it comes to money is we can set up exactly how we're going to pay that contact. Notice at the bottom here with my payoff lender, I can set how I anticipate to receive money from that contact and or how I receive to disperse money to that contact. So with this payoff lender, if I know for a fact that I'm going to send out a wire, I can set that contact to anticipate disbursement as outgoing wire. The default, if we F2 that red text, is check. So if you're ever wondering why certain disbursements in your register show as pending checks versus pending wires, this is going to be why. It all goes back to contacts. So when you're filling in your contact, if you know how you're going to receive money from or send money to that contact, you can set that right here in the contact screen. All right, so I know we're nearing the end of our hour. I want to leave some extra time for questions, so I'm going to go ahead and stop
Sure.
there with our tips and tricks. Do we have any other good questions that have come in?
We do. It says, how do you bring up a deposit slip once it's generated?
Oh, once you create the group deposit. So
Yeah,
if
I
we
guess
go
so, yeah.
back, okay, so if we go back, I'll do a group deposit search and I'm going to pull up, let's see, the deposit we did today and double click to open it. If I click deposit slip, it will go ahead and let me send that deposit slip to my printer.
Okay, great. Another question we have here, it says, when you group deposit, will Rhino see that as one deposit and you have to match it to the files you selected?
So when it comes to Rhino, they're comparing your system to your bank statement. So what they will see in the system, as long as you grouped everything the same way in your system as you did at the bank, they will match those two numbers together. It actually makes it easier for Rhino to match it. So yes, they will see that there was a group deposit for $100,000. Rhino doesn't care how many orders that covers. They're trying to match what happened at the bank. So yes, grouping deposits actually makes Rhino's job easier.
Okay, great. Says, if a file gets corrupt, are you able to still copy all of the contacts, etc., to create a new file by dragging and dropping information to the new file without corrupting the new file? That's interesting.
Ooh, that's a good question. That would be
It's more of
more
a technical support question.
Yeah, that's a technical support question. I'm not, because I'd have no, I mean, first of all, what's the reason it was corrupted? And I mean, there's like a million questions to follow that up with. So yeah, that would be a technical support question. I would, if you have that problem, I would reach out to support and open up a technical ticket.
Okay, sounds good. Can you split the screen to show the order and the attachments?
No, the attachments is part of the order.
Makes sense. Can you save deposit slip directly to attachments?
So I would have to print it to PDF and then I could drag and drop it into attachments.
Okay, so print a PDF and then drag and drop into the attachments.
Correct.
Someone's asking if Rhino shows the file number.
No, I don't believe so. Because Rhino is working off of your bank statement, and then they're in your system, clearing transactions. Now, if their reports show your order numbers, that I'm not sure of. That would be a Rhino question.
I was just gonna say, I think you could probably check with Rhino on that, but my guess is the same. And they probably could access it, but they're going off basically a bank statement.
Right. Yeah.
Let me see. There was one we didn't get to earlier. Is there a way to drag the buyer in one file to be the seller in a new file? I mean, you could just copy and paste, obviously, but you can show
we could
how to do
copy
it.
and paste. Yeah, because with the overlay, let's see if we try to, let's test it out. I honestly never tried it. I love trying new things. You never know, right? So let's try it. Because since it's a buyer contact in the original order,
Right.
and if I try to drag it down as a seller, no, yeah, it still adds it as a buyer. So you would have to do a copy and paste. So you could split your screen, copy the buyer name, paste it, copy the buyer address and paste it. So it's, yeah, because it's going off of that contact code. So that's why it's not going to allow you to use the overlay to change the contact type, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. Okay, when you create a new file and are copying the items to go over, can you send the emails in the folders and keep the date that they were entered in the original file? So I'm assuming the emails are saved as attachments in the original file.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that order that we just, let me see if we had attachments in there. Yeah, so they will have, so whatever attachments were in, so here's my original CDF order, and here are the attachments. They're dated for February the 7th. And
Mm-hmm.
then we toggled that here to the HUD. And those attachments do have the new date because that's when they were technically created here. But if I go to properties, no, I was going to see if we could change the date. So no, they don't have the original date. You could edit the description perhaps if that's important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's an email, obviously when you double click and open the email, you'll be able to see the date that that was sent. You're not seeing a date it was attached. But this description field, if I right click on any attachment and choose properties, this description field is something you can type in. So if you wanted to put the original date in there for reference, you could do that.
Okay. I think we have gotten through. Let me double check. I think we got through, which is perfect. Your timing is impeccable. We've answered actually all the questions. So I just want to remind everyone, because some people have asked and sent me some emails. We do include a follow-up email with a link to this webinar so that you can have access to it and kind of pull up what you want to see or show someone else, or at your leisure look at some stuff maybe that you want to try in your system. We will also follow up with, we will include the keyboard keystroke shortcut keys in there in the follow-up email as well. And we'll make sure that that is in there so you don't have to remember all the F1s, F2, F3s, but they are pretty handy to use. So we'll include that shortcut keystroke document in there for you, along with a recording to this webinar. So as always, if you have any questions or have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. You can email Jessica, you can email myself, you can email support, you can email your sales reps, whomever you need to talk to. We're always there to try and help you guys out. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we are just going to give everyone their day back. And thank you, Jessica, as always, for helping us out. You know
Thank
a
you.
lot more about all this than me. So again, everybody, please make sure you register, go on to celebrate our 40th year so that you can get some fun prizes and some events that we'll be doing. And we look forward to hopefully hosting you for another Save You a Seat webinar.
Thanks, everybody.